How does a writer gain confidence in their voice?
I guess the best way to gain confidence in your own voice is to practice. Practice, explore, make sure that it feels right. Sometimes your voice incorporates things from other writers, and that's okay, because we're all influenced. You know, like you'll say, like, you know, I want to be more of a Hemingway sort of writer. It doesn't mean that you're going to be like Hemingway. It's just that there's a certain musicality to it, or I don't know. I think with time and practice, eventually, and by trying to enjoy the process, your voice comes out. It's not one of those things that you can force. You can't fake it, because sooner or later, I mean, you'll get exhausted. It just feels right. It feels like something you would say. It feels like this is how I express myself. There's a little bit of self-consciousness in it, but also you want to surprise yourself. You don't want to get stuck in one idea of what your voice is.
Do you think it's easier to write in a fictional name, like a nom de plume, just because you can then express yourself more without the worry of judgment?
Interesting. I've never done it. Maybe I should. I've thought about it. I actually admire writers, musicians who preserve their identity. I know in some cases we know who they are. With Elena Ferrante, for example, the Italian writer who now there's an HBO show, and Maggie Gyllenhaal actually adapted another of her novels. I'm saying her, but we don't even know if it's a woman. With Elena Ferrante, we don't even know if it's one person, several people, if it's a man. There are many theories about that. I think it's fun. But it's very interesting how whoever writes those novels, it's counterintuitive to our idea of ego and recognition and success, right? And it's like, wow, you took the time to write all that brilliantly and you don't want any credit for it because you have a fake name. I don't know, maybe that's the way to go. The same thing with bands. I recently saw the Residents, who have been playing together for 50 years and nobody knows who they are. They wear masks. I should try it. Maybe there's something liberating.
And then there was a Spanish female author, correct, that we found out there were two male writers that were sort of embodying this woman. Maybe I'm getting the country wrong.
That rings a bell. I don't know exactly. I know that at some point, I think Woody Allen, who you can't quote anymore, jokingly said that Shakespeare was actually for women. Maybe. I don't know. I do know. I will say this on a more serious note. There's something to be said about collaboration. You know, we haven't touched upon this, but I think about it often. I love collaboration. It's really hard to find someone to collaborate with. Again, it's almost like a romantic relationship. You got to understand one another and share certain interests and certain dynamics. That's why so often it's siblings who do it. You know, like the Coen brothers or the Duplass brothers, but there's something about collaboration that's just so much fun, and there's immediate reassurance that you're onto something. The only issue it has is that for the industry, they want to label you as a team. So they want to market you that way. So it's really hard to collaborate on one project and then break that society.
What are the tools a beginning writer has to learn in order to write for film and television?
I think the first thing to do is watch a lot of films and TV, read a lot of scripts. Certain books can help, but mostly I'd say if you read a script, start breaking down scripts. Okay, study the format. Study how they use dialogue, how they describe. Study characters and how they're presented. It's very important to have strong character presentations. You know, the way you introduce them. How is it effective? How do we know that's the protagonist? Reading scripts is the best way, for sure, and watching a lot. You know, and maybe reading the script and then watching how it was made. What gets lost, you know, what they remove from final version of the story. Reading a lot and writing. I mean, that's really the only way to learn how to write is to write and write and write and write and write. And get all the bad scripts out of the way first. We all have those bad scripts. And after a while, they get better. And by studying other people's writing and asking for feedback, you get better.
You've mentioned that you love Paul Thomas Anderson. When you look at his scripts and then you watch the films, what stands out to you?
P.T. Anderson is a freak of nature. I adore him. I love him deeply. I recently saw his last movie, and he was there to introduce it. Such a pleasure to hear him talk. He's so articulate and so, real. I think both P.T. Anderson and Tarantino, who many people have, they compare in many ways. First of all, because they're both originally from LA, which is a rarity in itself. It's weird. They have an authority to speak about the city because they were born here, but they're both amazing writers, and this doesn't get said enough. I feel like people talk about them as directors, and they're amazing directors, some of my favorite, but they're also incredible screenwriters. Tarantino is an amazing screenwriter. He has a sense of timing, and he's become so much more sophisticated with time. P.T. Anderson, I think what I admire is there's an energy to what he does. It's not even a quality of the story itself. His characters have this sense of urgency. No matter if you watch his movies, they're always like pulsating. Take There Will Be Blood, Daniel Day-Lewis, or Adam Sandler in Punch Drunk Love, or in Magnolia, or in this last one. His characters almost run. They can't keep still. They have an anxiety. And I feel like that's the most distinctive thing. But also, he never makes the same movie twice. All his movies are so different in genre and tone and aesthetic, and he shoots with different cameras and textures and colors. It's one of those guys who's he emanates, cinema. I don't even try to imitate him. He's just in a whole different league.
That's what I was wondering, when your students ask you, I want to become the next, and then fill in the blank. Do you have advice for them where don't actually try to emulate that style?
I would never tell them what to do. My advice would probably be try to be yourself. Or sure, why not? Try to be the next P.T. Anderson. The odds are you're going to be the next you. There's only one P.T. Anderson, and we should be grateful he exists. But I can say the same thing about Lady Gaga. What I'm saying is, it's great to have role models. We all do. But at the end of the day, you're not going to be them. You're going to be you. I don't try to make all the things I love. There are movies I love, but I could never write them. It's weird. When you get started and when you probably go to film school or something like that, you confuse your taste with what you produce. But sooner or later, you realize that you can love certain kind of movies that you will never make, or TV shows. I can watch sitcoms. I never write sitcoms. It's not natural to me, but I'm happy they exist.
I have a Maya Angelou quote here, and it is, "You can't use up creativity. The more you use, the more you have."
Oh, creativity is another of those concepts. I know what it is, but I can't describe it. I know that you can stimulate it. It's we don't necessarily control what stirs creativity. I know that I do know that when I'm not feeling creative, certain influences will help me get there. When I watched the latest P.T. Anderson movie in a theater, I was exhilarated. I'm like, I need to go make something now. The same thing, some paintings can do that. Sometimes going to a museum can stimulate you, going to concerts, or even listening to some music alone and meeting certain friends, sharing experiences. anything can stimulate creativity. Sometimes, you know, maybe even spiritual, religious practices, going out for a hike. Motion usually helps. I feel like when I'm too static, you know, or lazy, the odds are I won't feel creative. But, you know, maybe you work out, maybe you take a long shower, maybe you read, maybe you, I don't know, go out for getting out of the house. I mean this for writers who usually work from home or their office, you know. Getting a different space to work out, change the location. So I agree with the quote.